What's a CEO doing in a cheap hoodie, slinging sodas at midnight in his own gaming lounge? That's what Carter Stenson was asking himself as he adjusted his cap and stepped into the back entrance of Store 13, one of the 17 gaming lounges he'd built from nothing over the last 9 years. What started as a single location in a dusty strip mall had become a growing chain across 3 states. But lately, things felt off. Customer complaints had ticked up. A few online reviews mentioned weird vibes at night, not enough to raise alarms. But Carter didn't like secondhand answers. He wanted to see it for himself. So, with his beard trimmed shorter, his hair dyed sandy brown, a fake name tag reading Kyle, and a company email creating the illusion of a new part-time hire, he was dropped into the night shift rotation without anyone knowing who he really was. Store 13 was in Grand Junction. It ran 24 hours on weekends, and tonight was a Friday. The place smelled like popcorn and energy drinks, and the pulsing lights of neon signage bounced off every wall. It should have felt alive. Instead, it felt tired. "Hey, new guy," came a voice behind the bar. "You're late." Carter glanced up. The man was stocky, with thinning hair and narrowed eyes that never smiled. The name tag said Rick, night supervisor. "It's 11:59. My shift starts at midnight." Rick snorted. "Cool, you want to argue over 1 minute? There's gum stuck to the floor in pod 6. Go scrape it." Carter kept his face straight. "Got it." He grabbed a scraper and headed toward pod 6, one of the gaming booths used for team tournaments. The gum wasn't hard to find. The booth hadn't been cleaned in hours. It smelled like sweat and stale fries. Just as he knelt down, voices came from the hallway leading to the staff room. "Seriously, Ellie, you call that mopping? I've seen toddlers do better." "I thought I got." "No, you didn't. You thought wrong. You think customers want to walk through your half-dry, streaky mess? You're lucky we even hired you." Carter froze. He leaned back slowly, just enough to see. A girl, no older than 19, stood clutching a mop. Her brown curls were tied back and her face was red. She looked like she wanted to disappear. Rick towered over her, arms crossed. "I'm sorry, I'll redo it," she said, voice trembling. "You'll redo it, and maybe next time use your brain instead of just your arms," Rick snapped. Carter stood up slowly, heart thudding. He walked toward them. "Hey, sorry to interrupt," Carter said, keeping his voice low. "Just wanted to ask where the glass cleaner is." Rick turned to him, annoyed. "Under the sink in the back." "Cool, thanks." Carter looked at Ellie for a second, gave a small nod, then walked off. In the supply room, Carter gripped the counter. It wasn't just about rudeness. That was straight-up humiliation, for a new hire, in public, on her first night. And Rick didn't even flinch doing it. Carter knew managing night shifts wasn't easy. People slacked. Customers got rowdy. But there was a line and Rick had stomped over it. He went back to work, quietly observing the lay of the land. There were only 3 employees on the clock. Rick mostly barked orders from behind the main desk. Ellie cleaned, ran food, and helped customers without complaint. And then there was Marcus, a quiet guy managing the VR rentals. He barely spoke, but he worked fast. By 2 in the morning, they were behind. A birthday party had run over. A group of teens spilled soda all over booth 9, and some guy puked near the restrooms. Rick disappeared for half an hour, said he was handling reports, but Carter found him sitting in the break room watching videos on his phone. Ellie and Marcus cleaned the mess without help. When Ellie asked Rick if she could take a quick 5-minute break, he waved her off. "You can breathe when we close." Carter clenched his jaw. By 4:30, the lounge was nearly empty. Ellie leaned against the counter, eyes heavy. Marcus brought her a water bottle. "You okay?" Carter asked quietly. She nodded. "Just tired, first job. I didn't think it'd be like this." Carter looked at her mop-wrinkled hands. "You've been doing great." She blinked, surprised. "Thanks." Carter turned as Rick came out front. "All right, wrap things up. And Kyle," he said, looking at Carter, "next time don't ask so many questions. Just do what you're told." Carter stared at him for a long second. "Sure thing." But inside, something had shifted. This wasn't just a bad night. This was a pattern, and Carter was ready to break it. Tomorrow, he'd come back again. And this time, he'd be watching closer. Carter returned the next night without hesitation. He didn't need more reports or second-hand accounts. He needed patterns, and if what he saw last night was standard, then it wasn't just poor management. It was cultural rot. He arrived 10 minutes early this time. The front door was still locked, lights dimmed low. He waited outside until a lanky teenager with headphones opened the door. No greeting, just a quick glance before disappearing behind the front desk. Inside, the air felt heavier. The scent of stale fries still hung around, but now it was mixed with something faintly sour like mop water left to sit too long. The same fluorescent bulbs buzzed overhead, flickering slightly, and the same dull music looped on the speakers. But tonight, there was someone new. A different girl was behind the snack bar, shoulders hunched, eyes scanning the counter like she was trying to memorize a manual that didn't exist. She couldn't have been older than 17. "You the new guy?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, Kyle, you." "Bree, second weekend. Just tried to refill the nacho cheese and burned my hand." She held up her palm, red and slightly swollen. "You okay?" She nodded, but her eyes didn't match the motion. "Manager said it happens, told me not to slow down." Carter didn't answer. He just made a mental note and moved behind the counter. Rick showed up 20 minutes into the shift. No explanation, no apology, just tossed his jacket onto a chair and started barking assignments like he'd been there the whole time. When Bree asked if she could put some ice on her hand, he didn't even look up. "You want ice, clock out. Otherwise, get back to the fryer." Carter's jaw tightened. He memorized the words as they were said, not trusting himself to speak. Ellie arrived right after. She looked more tired than the night before, eyes rimmed with shadows, her uniform shirt a little more wrinkled. But she nodded to Carter when she passed, a small flicker of acknowledgement. Rick caught it. "You two friends now?" he said, standing behind the counter. "What's that, 3 shifts in and you're already socializing? Save it, booth 8 needs cleaning." Carter didn't respond. He just grabbed a rag and headed toward booth 8. It wasn't dirty. In fact, it looked freshly wiped. But he scrubbed it anyway, just to keep moving. Half an hour later, a group of regulars came in, 3 guys, maybe in their 20s, loud and clearly used to getting their way. One of them tossed a soda bottle toward the trash bin and missed. When Bree went to clean it up, he laughed. "You want a tip, sweetheart? Try smiling when you bend over." Carter froze. Bree didn't look at him. She just kept cleaning, her face blank. Rick was standing 5 feet away. He heard it. He didn't say anything. Carter walked over, slow and deliberate. "Hey," he said to the guy, "that how you talk to people where you're from?" The guy turned, surprised. "What's it to you?" Carter didn't blink. "You want to stay, you treat staff like people. Otherwise, I'll gladly refund your credits and walk you out." Rick stormed over. Whoa, whoa, Kyle, you're not customer service. You don't talk to guests like that." Carter didn't look at him. Neither should they talk to her like that. Rick stepped in front of him. "You don't give orders, you're a floor runner, you run the floor." Carter looked him in the eye for the first time that night. "And you're supposed to run the staff, but I haven't seen you lift a finger in 2 hours." Rick's face flushed. "You want to keep this job, you better learn your place." Before Carter could reply, an alarm went off from the back. One of the VR pods had a sensor error, meaning someone could have tripped or fallen inside. Marcus rushed past them without a word. Rick didn't move. Carter followed Marcus. Inside the pod, a kid maybe 12 years old was sitting on the floor, dazed. His headset had slipped halfway off, and his lip was bleeding slightly. Marcus knelt beside him. "Hey, you all right, man?" The kid nodded, blinking. "Who set this up?" Carter asked. "Rick," Marcus answered. "Said it was fine. The kid's under the age recommendation, but Rick cleared him anyway." Carter stood frozen for a second. A miner inside faulty equipment, cleared by someone not qualified, injured, no record, no oversight. He turned on his heel and walked straight back to the front. "Rick," he said calmly. Rick looked up from his phone. "What now?" Carter didn't hesitate. "You're done here. You can leave now, or I'll have security escort you." The room went still. Rick blinked. "Excuse me." "I said you're finished. You're not fit to manage anything. You've endangered a child, ignored harassment, humiliated staff, and spent more time sitting than working. Get out." Rick laughed once. "You're a temp, you don't get to fire anybody." Carter reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black keycard the master override for the lounge's control systems. He held it up. "I'm Carter Stenson. I built this place, and I've seen enough." Rick's face went pale. "You've got 60 seconds to leave, or I'll call the police and report the injury you caused." Rick glanced around. No one moved. Bree stood frozen. Ellie's eyes were wide. Rick opened his mouth, then closed it. He turned and left without another word. Carter exhaled slowly and turned to the rest of the staff. "I want everyone to take a 5-minute break. I'll cover the floor." No one moved. Then Marcus stepped forward. "You're really the owner?" "Yeah." Ellie crossed her arms. "Why pretend to be someone else?" "Because I didn't trust what I was hearing, and now I know why." He looked around the lounge, the frayed posters, the flickering lights, the tired eyes. This place is supposed to be fun, and it's turned into something else. Bree finally spoke. "Are you shutting us down?" "No," Carter said, "but we're fixing it tonight." He called in a senior manager from another location to take over. Within the hour, she arrived, took the helm, and immediately began documenting everything: injury reports, shift logs, customer footage. Carter stayed on the floor until sunrise, helping clean, serve, and refill supplies. He didn't take a break, he didn't sit once. And when the doors finally locked at 7 in the morning, he gathered the staff together in the break room. "I know the last few months have been rough, and I know some of you have been carrying more than your share. That ends now." He looked at Bree. "You're getting paid medical leave for the burn, full week." He turned to Marcus. "You're being promoted to night shift lead, effective immediately." Then to Ellie. "And you've shown more professionalism in 2 nights than some people show in a year. You're getting a raise, and you'll help me build the new training program we're starting next week." Ellie's eyes welled up. She nodded once but said nothing. "We'll hire more staff, we'll rotate shifts better, and from now on, every employee gets a direct line to senior management. No more walls." He paused, looking around the room. "No more people like Rick, ever again." No one applauded, but the silence said more than cheers ever could. It sounded like trust being rebuilt, brick by brick. The next week, Carter returned to store 13, not undercover, not hidden, but as himself. He arrived just before 9 in the evening, dressed in the same black hoodie and jeans, but this time with the name badge clipped plainly to his chest. Carter Owner. There was no dramatic entrance. He walked in through the front like any other team member and quietly nodded to Marcus, who was now managing the overnight shift. Marcus looked up from the tablet he was using to check booth inventory. Wasn't sure you'd actually show again. I said I would, Carter replied, and besides, this is where the work is. The lounge still bore the scars of neglect. The neon signs buzzed more than they should, and some of the headsets had frayed padding. But the energy had shifted. There was a kind of cautious calm. Employees weren't rushing around or watching over their shoulders. They were working, but they weren't afraid. Ellie was wiping down VR visors at the counter. She noticed Carter and gave a quick nod, then went back to it. No need for formalities. They had moved past that. Bree was absent tonight. Her doctor's note confirmed a minor burn, and Carter had personally ensured she was paid for the time off. She'd return in 4 days, no pressure. Carter leaned over the counter. Ellie, you ever thought about what you'd change if this place were yours? She glanced at him, unsure if he was serious. I mean it, he said. If you could change one thing right now. She hesitated. We need better chairs in booths 2 through 5. The foam's flattened out. Guests sit for hours and start complaining. I've logged it twice, but it keeps getting pushed back. Carter nodded. Consider it done. I'll handle the vendor. Ellie blinked. You're not going to ask for a cost estimate first. I already know the numbers. Approved them 2 years ago. We just stopped prioritizing comfort somewhere along the way. She didn't say anything to that. She just turned back to organizing the visors. Carter moved through the lounge slowly, taking it all in. A group of college students clustered in one corner, playing a rhythm game. 2 middle-aged friends were using a driving simulator, laughing too loud for the hour. A father and daughter combo was setting up a co-op shooter in booth 7. The place had life again. But not everything was running clean. At 10:45, a shift transition was supposed to happen. The evening staff would clock out, and the overnight crew would rotate in. Carter waited at the front desk. Marcus was already preparing the handover report. Only 2 of the 3 new hires showed up. Where's Caleb? Marcus asked, checking the roster. Not responding, said the girl who just arrived. Her name was Dana. She was new but sharp, already handling customer check-ins like a pro. He's missed 2 shifts this week, Marcus added, frowning. No call, no message. Carter turned. You reached out. Twice, nothing. Carter didn't hesitate. Then he's off the schedule. We can't afford people who don't respect the team's time. Marcus nodded. Got it. Dana looked between them. What do we do with booth 12? He was supposed to cover it. I'll take it, Carter said. I want to see how the new setups are running anyway. By midnight, the place was steady. Busy, but not chaotic. Carter handled booth 12 while keeping his eyes open for anything slipping through the cracks. At 12:30, a mother came in with her teenage son. She was clearly uncomfortable, glancing around like she expected trouble. Carter greeted them at the desk. Just the 2 of you tonight? Yes, my son has a sensory condition. He does better with solo games, no headsets. Carter nodded. We've got a few stations for that. Booth 14 is best it's quieter, and we can adjust lighting. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Thank you. He walked them over and helped set it up himself. The boy didn't say much, but when the game loaded and he started playing, he broke into a soft grin. The mother whispered, That's the first time he's smiled all day. Moments like that Carter had almost forgotten they were why he started this business. At 1:15, a problem surfaced. A group of 3 young men walked in early 20s, loud, already a little buzzed. Not against policy, but close to the line. They headed straight for the snack bar where Ellie was restocking drinks. One of them leaned over the counter, too close. Hey, can I get a discount if I pay with a compliment? Ellie ignored him, focused on the fridge. Come on, another one said. You're not even gonna smile. What too good for us? Carter was already moving before Marcus had looked up from the tablets. "Gentlemen," he said, "you're here to game, not to harass. Keep it respectful, or I'll refund your credits and send you out." The third guy scoffed. "Who are you, her boyfriend?" "No, I'm the guy who owns this building and decides who stays in it." That got their attention. "All right, relax," the first one muttered. "We're just joking." "Not here, you're not." They moved off, grumbling. Carter made sure they stayed in the open lounge, away from the booths. He didn't look at Ellie, didn't make a show of it. He just returned to his post. At 2:40, Dana approached with a clipboard. "We've got a problem with the vending logs again. The snack inventory isn't syncing to the POS." Carter frowned. "That's the third time this month." "Yeah, I think the backend is glitching during the overnight update cycle." "Can you work with IT to pull a direct report, strip out the automation, and run it raw?" She hesitated. "I could try, that's above my clearance though." "You've got it now," Carter said. "I'll notify security. You're authorized for backend access tonight." Dana blinked, then nodded. Understood. He watched her go, already pulling out her phone for the IT line. She handled it without flinching. Another one to keep an eye on. By 4, the lounge had thinned. Carter was wiping down the unused booths when Marcus approached. "Been meaning to ask," he said. "Why not just fire people like Rick months ago? You must have heard something." Carter set the rag down. "I did, but I didn't listen closely enough. I thought every complaint had context, that people might be exaggerating." Marcus folded his arms. "So what changed?" "I stopped reading reports. I started watching." Marcus nodded slowly. "You think it's like this at the other locations?" "Some maybe, not all, but I'm not guessing anymore." "Good," Marcus said, "because you've got something here, but only if you keep showing up." Carter didn't answer. He just picked up the rag again and got back to work. At 5, the door buzzed. A delivery driver dropped off the first replacement Chairs Ellie's request already in motion. She and Dana helped unbox them. No ceremony, no speeches, just a task completed without delay. By 6, the sun had started to rise. The lounge dimmed its lights slightly, shifting into early morning mode. Carter checked the clock. His shift was nearly done. But instead of heading out, he walked into the break room, grabbed a blank sheet from the suggestion board, and pinned up a new form at the top. "Ideas that fix things." He left a pen dangling from the hook and walked away without a word. Later that day, Ellie would write the first one. And Carter would know this time, the change was real. 3 weeks later, Store 13 didn't look new, but it felt different. The changes hadn't been flashy. No press, no grand announcements, no renovations. But word had spread, not through ads or memos, but through people. Staff who stayed late because they wanted to, not because they were scared to leave. Customers who noticed the difference and came back twice in the same week. Carter returned on a Sunday afternoon, the first time he'd visited during daylight in months. He'd made a point not to stay away too long. This time, he walked in through the front again, no hoodie, no disguise. Just a gray t-shirt, a clipboard, and a cup of black coffee that had gone lukewarm by the time he reached the counter. Ellie was behind the register, hair pulled into a bun, sleeves rolled up, typing something into the POS with one hand and helping a kid count tokens with the other. She spotted Carter and gave a quick nod, then returned to the child, crouching to his level to explain how the credit system worked. Carter stepped aside and waited. When she stood up, she wiped her hands on a towel and walked over. "You're early." "I figured I'd see the place when it's busiest." "You picked a good day. We've got 2 birthday parties and a tournament final at 5. "Staff holding up." "Better than last month, still stretched but we're not drowning." Carter raised his eyebrows. anyone pushing burnout. Dana's been staying late without logging it. She says she's fine, but I caught her nodding off in the break room Thursday. Carter pulled a pen from behind his ear and jotted a note. That's the kind of thing I need to hear. I figured. He paused. How's Marcus adjusting to the lead role? Ellie leaned her elbows on the counter. Quiet, steady, he's not trying to be impressive, he just gets things done. People respect that. Good. Ellie tilted her head slightly. You checking on us or checking on yourself? A little of both. Before she could respond, the front doors opened and a group of teens filed in, laughing, wearing matching t-shirts for a local e-sports club. Carter stepped back without a word and let Ellie return to the counter. He walked the floor slowly, observing. Booth monitors were running clean. The lighting was dimmed just enough to keep the focus on the games. Staff moved with purpose, some chatting with customers, others clearing tables or restocking snacks. Near the back wall, a new face, tall, slim, with a drawstring bag slung over one shoulder, was running through a VR headset calibration. Carter didn't recognize him. He made a mental note to introduce himself later. As he rounded the corner near the arcade section, Marcus approached, clipboard in hand. Got 5 minutes. Carter nodded. They stepped into a side room, not the break room, just a quiet supply space where voices didn't echo. There's something you should see, Marcus said, flipping the clipboard around. Customer incident from Friday night. Carter scanned the report, a dispute over a reservation. Guest claimed they'd been promised a booth that wasn't available, raised their voice at staff, refused to leave, and had to be escorted out. No injuries, no damage, but something caught his eye. Who handled it? Jared, Marcus said, the new hire from Ridgeview. He started last week. Carter remembered the name. He had been transferred from another location that recently cut hours. How'd he manage it? Well, that's the problem, Marcus said. He didn't. Carter looked up. He froze, didn't say a word, just stood there while the customer yelled at Dana. She finally had to step in and de-escalate it herself. Did Jared explain? He said he wasn't trained for conflict, but here's the thing, he's 30, with previous retail experience. Carter was quiet for a moment. Is this a one-time thing? Marcus hesitated. No, he's been passive since day one. Avoids eye contact, doesn't speak up during team meetings, and last night found him scrolling social media behind the counter during a 2-booth queue. That's not going to work. I wanted to give him more time, but Dana's picking up his slack, and she won't say anything unless someone asks. Carter nodded once. Schedule a meeting with him, tonight. Carter found Jared later that evening, sitting near the equipment locker, scrolling his phone again. He approached without raising his voice. Got a minute? Jared looked up surprised. Sure. They stepped into the same supply room Marcus had used earlier. I read the Friday report, Carter said. Tell me what happened. Jared shifted his weight. The guy was aggressive. I didn't want to escalate it. So you did nothing. I was trying to stay calm. You watched someone else take the hit for you. I didn't mean to. Carter cut him off, voice still even. This isn't a place that rewards silence when someone's being mistreated. You see something wrong, you step in, even if you're scared. That's the job. Jared looked at the floor. We've got employees who have been screamed at, who have worked with injuries, who have taken double shifts when others didn't show. People who didn't wait for someone else to fix it. They fixed it themselves. I just didn't know what to say. Carter didn't soften. Then this isn't the place for you. Jared blinked. You're firing me. You've been here a week. You've coasted. You've left others to carry your weight. You had every chance to step up and you chose not to. I don't need placeholders. I need people who show up. I thought I had more time. You had enough. Jared walked out 10 minutes later. No argument, no scene, just a quiet exit. Carter returned to the floor and found Dana near the snack bar, organizing a tray of bottled drinks. "You're off in 20, he said. Dana looked up. "I thought I was closing with Marcus." "You were, but you've logged 32 hours in 4 days, and you haven't taken a real break since Wednesday." "I'm okay." "You're going home. Marcus is covering the rest." She opened her mouth to protest, then stopped. "All right. Take tomorrow off too, paid." Dana blinked. "That's not policy." "It is now." She smiled, not wide, just enough to show she understood what it meant. By 9, the lounge had quieted. The tournament had wrapped up. The birthday crowd had cleared. Carter sat at one of the booths, watching the last few customers finish their games. Ellie joined him, 2 water bottles in hand. She offered him one. "Jared gone." "For good." She took a sip. "You're not wasting time anymore." "I can't afford to." They sat in silence for a while. Then Ellie asked, "So what happens next?" Carter looked around the lounge. The hum of machines, the low music, the soft clatter of game tokens in the background. "We keep showing up," he said, "and we don't wait for things to get bad before we fix them." Ellie nodded. "You think the other stores are like this one was?" "Some," he said, "and I'm going to each one shift at a time." She looked at him. "You can't be everywhere." "No," Carter said, "but can make sure the people who are know what right looks like." He stood, stretched his back, and looked at the suggestion board across the room. It was half full now. Some ideas were small, better gloves, a different mop brand. Others were bigger rotating lead roles, a mentor system, more frequent check-ins. Each one had a name next to it. Each one had been acknowledged. And not one had been ignored. Carter walked over, picked up the pen, and wrote something in the corner of the board. Trust is built in minutes and repaired in years. No one watched him write it, no one needed to. But they'd see it tomorrow, and they'd know he meant it. Because this time, he was staying close.